In this episode of Vinyl Haul, I've got at least one death metal record, a couple trad metal albums, and a few thrash releases, one of which from a classic Canadian band who just put out album number 6. So stick around so we could talk about some metal records. I mean, what else are we going to talk about? First up is the third studio album from Danish death metal band Maceration. This is Serpent Devourment, released in 2025 by Maceration Productions. So a short and creepy orchestral intro leads the record, complete with spectral moans, but then soon enough the pounding drums and marching riff comes in, then transitions to speedy death riffing with an interesting mix of faintly sweet death buzz and an almost classic massacre tone to it. Speaking of the latter, new vocalist Jan Bergman Jepsen, who replaced Dan Swano, has an undeniable Cam Lee snarl to his gruff growls. As for the record in general, we have a wealth of tempo shifts from D-beats and tremolo runs to almost doomy and melodic passages, but still crushing slow riffs. In fact, get ready for a whole lot of riffy. I mean, even within a single track, there's no time to get used to one riff, as they've already moved on to another. Thankfully, it's still musically cohesive and not simply disjointed bits thrown together. Even in some of the more caveman tracks, such as The Suffering and When Torment Befell My Pain, they've injected enough aggression and catchiness into the tracks that they still keep your interest. And at any rate, you're getting severely headbangable track after headbangable track. Now, I did mention sweet death before, and the tone does vaguely tap into that, but some of the general riff structure might be even more on the mark, noticeably in the slower passages of many songs. So, Maceration might get accused of copying a bit, but I would definitely defend the record by saying that there is enough of their own thing here that the emulation is more tribute than outright theft, with a lot of that departure coming from not only the riff switch-ups, but also some of the fantastic and varied solo work from Jacob Schultz. Good stuff. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one's 1 LP, Blue Light. It is limited to 200 copies. Also, strangely enough, it came with both a printed inner sleeve and an insert that are identical. I don't know why that is, but there they are. I guess if you lose one, you got two. Kooky. Anyways, favorite tracks on this one, definitely Serpent Devourment, killer song, also Where Leeches Thrive, and Revolt the Tyrant Dream. Also loving the ending track For the End Alone, so maybe check that one out as well. There are music videos available, one for Serpent Devourment and the other Where Leeches Thrive. You can also find a lyric video for The Den of Misery. All of those can be gotten at the Maceration Productions YouTube channel. So this little sweet death worship mixed with a healthy dose of massacre and maybe even hints of classic war metal, Maceration delivers a crushing and aggressive death metal album full of riffs, quite a few of which catchy and memorable. And while it's not exactly steeped in originality, it's certainly worth plenty of revisits, so do check this one out. Definitely digging it. Next is the second studio album from Swedish thrash metal band Disarray. This is Religious Disease, released in 2024 by Jawbreaker Records. So some classic-style speed thrash riffing brings us straight into the first track, Forbidden of Speech, which gives us vocals of the shouty and screamy variety, not too dissimilar from 80s Creator. Definitely channeling the old-school thrash from bands such as Exodus and Destruction, but also fitting rather well into a modern sound, such as we get from Warbringer and Power Trip. One thing I dig about bands like Disarray is that they don't sit comfortably in one tempo. I mean, tons of thrash bands, both back then and now, have a propensity for sameness, and a lot of it is linked to a predictable speed from one track to another, but maybe also in a singer possessing one staccato vocal cadence. But here you get the headbanging chug of Nightmarish Gaze, but also the speed of Bound to Kill and the thrash groove of Hell's Fire. Even the acoustic electric combo opener to Guilty Until Proven Innocent has a real freshness to it, and that's really saying something given that such an intro has been otherwise done to death. So it's fair to say that if there's anything I need in my thrash, it's definitely variety from track to track, but also within the same track, and I definitely get that here. Also, digging the speed solos throughout, which give the tracks a great deal of immediacy. The band sometimes hangs on to a riff for quite a bit, but they're often good riffs, so it's largely forgivable. Love the almost Forbidden-esque bookend passages to Psychosis, bringing some more of that Bay Area flavor. Also catching some quick bass fills that are pretty cool, though not at all overstated. Listen closely to Realize You're Already Dead for some of that, but a couple other tracks have them as well. Also love the nod to early thrash bands with the ending of the final track, Religious Disease, with its concert-like crescendo, similar to how a lot of classic thrash bands ended their albums, and I'm sorely thinking of Metallica and Exodus here. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP, Classic Black. It is limited to 400 copies. So we got an insert, lyrics, credits, some artwork, pictures of the band, and all of that. Also, as you did see, there are some things that are falling out of the record. I also have more here. Looks like we have an ad for Living Fast. There you go. And a little heavy load merch on the back there for you. Also, cool Disarray sticker. Very nice. And a sticker for Jawbreaker Records. And some other little flyers here. Take a look at that. And that. And it looks like this is for Jawbreaker Records here. Looks like 10 years of heavy metal. Pretty cool. Maybe check into that label when you get the chance. And of course, there you go there as well. As for favorites on this one, definitely Nightmarish Gaze, also Psychosis, and Realize You're Already Dead. So I definitely want to thank Brett over at the Headbangers Closet YouTube channel for praising this album enough for me to want to check it out. I'm really glad I did, because this is some seriously fun and bang-worthy thrash, largely of the old school variety. And I'm certainly prompted to check out their debut record, Evil is Reborn, from 2023 as well. Next up is a compilation of tracks from vintage metal bands hailing from the great state of Georgia. This is Surrender to Death, a history of the Atlanta metal underground, 1982 to 1999, Volume 1, released in 2024 by Boris Records. So when you think of metal scenes in the classic era, Atlanta might not immediately come to mind, but much is the reason why I picked up this album. I was wanting some exposure to a scene I largely missed. And I say largely because there are a few bands on here that I'm familiar with, such as Hallows Eve and Kinetic Descent, but then plenty of others that I had never heard until now. And while I couldn't possibly go through all 22 bands here, let's at least get to some highlights. Starting with Messenger and the track Strangers, and that's Messenger with a D in the middle for some bizarre reason. It's a solid and melodic hard rock track with some strong Nawabum vibes, mixed with some Aerosmith swagger. It's immediately followed by Fort Knox and the track Lucifer's Eyes, which has a boogie hard rock riff and melodic vocals that actually is a bit catchy. But track 3 is where the metal proper kicks in with the band Ghost Story and the track What Few Even Dare, with some cool speed metal runs and off-kilter riffing. As we go through the album, it's clear that this scene has quite the variety of styles, not just trad, thrash, speed, and death, all of which represented here, but also in each band's execution of these genres. Some bands such as MX, Sinister Angel, and Unblessed aren't so easy to peg hole, which is the prime reason why this comp has such variety. Also, the Kinetic Descent track isn't from their one and only album, I Will Fight No More Forever, from 1991. Rather, it seems to be pulled from a demo, likely from 1987. However, the version of Metal Merchants from Hallows Eve does sound like the same one that's on their Tales of Terror album. Of course, that's just the first record of the set. Record 2 has more of a concentration on extreme metal, notably death metal, and largely influenced by 90s era bands with signs of technicality and grind finding their way in. Though some of the dirtier and grimier variants are here as well in bands like Rot, Avulsion, and Habarim. As for the vinyl, it is 2 LP. One of them is neon green. And the other record is dark red. I believe there's also another variant with one record yellow and one record purple, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty cool. So it comes in a gatefold jacket. We see pics of all the bands mentioned on the comp and playing on the comp, of course. There you go. Also, a number of inclusions here. We get a poster of the highly bizarre artwork. There you go. Very nice. Also, I do believe there's some more stuff in here. There's also a booklet that covers the bands as well, so you get brief write-ups of them and all that. Continues on the back. There is also some other things in here. A couple flyers. This one for Rot, live at the Rec Room. Amazing artwork there for you. This was another one for, it looks like Dark Angel, Nihilist, and Ghost Story. That looks like a really cool gig. We all know Dark Angel's coming back. Very exciting. There you go. Is there anything else in here? Oh, there is one more little thing here. Looks like a sticker for, I'm holding this upside down, for the actual records, Surrender to Death, there for you as well. Favorite tracks, definitely Evil Mind by Legion, When It Bleeds, It Pours by Unblessed, and Scream by Necroflesh. So don't let the cartoonishly colored cover fool you here. There is plenty of thrashing, heavy, and brutal material from bands you might not know anything about, which again is part of the appeal. Granted, the first two tracks seem wildly out of place from a musical standpoint, but my guess is that they provide some history of the scene for context. In any case, if you dig comps like this, as I do, then you might want to snag a copy. It's a good time. Next is the second studio album from American heavy metal band Mean Mistreater. This is Do or Die, released in 2025 by Dying Victims Productions. So heavy speed metal riffing brings us into the opening track, Killer Red, accompanied by the siren vocals of Janice Gonzalez, who's got the grit and punch of legendary female metal singers of the past, such as Leather Leone and Betsy Bitch, but also holds her own with more modern lady vocalists such as Stacey Savage and Deborah Levine. And at times, I might even think she surpasses those very competent singers. Interestingly, I also hear a certain male vocalist in some of her cadences, notably a bit of John Bush of Armored Saint, who's another singer who's got some grit to his voice. Check out Do or Die for excellent examples of this. Certainly some of the riffing also brings in classic era sounds with a clear ramped up Judas Priest influence, but catching some Nawabum in there as well. Even in some vocal phrasing, which revisits Diamond Head territory at times. In step with that is some hard rock catchiness that makes its way into tracks such as One Survivor and Nothing's Free, but always with a solid heavy metal attack. And it's hard to ignore that Janice's vocals really help that catchiness along. No question. I should also mention that the record is a little under 27 minutes, and it's a really fast 27 minutes because once it's over, I did find myself flipping it back to the A-side and listening to it again, which is to say, spoiler alert, it's a really good album. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP blue, which is considered the special edition. Here you are. Cool blue, by the way. Definitely. Also have insert logo of the band and some lyrics on the reverse. Also have a poster here of the band. Cool, look at that. Try to get the glare off of that. There you go. Very nice. And we also get a postcard. Great shot of the band. Love it. Look at that. There you go. And you can fill it out and send it to your grandma in Mississippi or wherever. Also, we've got, let's see, a few things in here because it is a special edition. Got a cool sticker right there. Very nice. And of course, with a lot of Dying Victims Productions special editions, you also get the patch. Very nice. Still working on my Battle Fest, by the way. Whenever I'm going to get it done, I don't know. But maybe this will inspire me a little bit more. There you go. As for favorite tracks, One Survivor is pretty great. Also, Do or Die and Release the Wolf. So I'm starting to suspect that this might be my current favorite female-fronted metal band right now because there is definitely a smart balance of catchiness and heaviness throughout that, again, I'm going to be respinning for quite a while. Also, I think I now need to go back and check out their debut album from last year called Razor Wire, if this is any indicator. Overall, and maybe needless to say, I am highly recommending this album for fans of solid and infectious heavy metal. Next up is the 6th studio album from American speed thrash band Hirax. This is Faster Than Death, released in 2025 by Armageddon label. So the punky speed thrash assault is delivered right away with the opening track Drill into the Brain, but don't get too used to it as it's only a minute long, and this is probably a good time to mention this is a really short album, clocking in at a little under 22 minutes. I mean, that's even shorter than Rain and Blood and most 80s punk albums. Also, the vinyl plays at 45 RPM, so at normal speed, I think the entire recording could have easily fit on one side of a record, putting into question if this is actually LP or EP length. At any rate, we get Caton's gruff, shouty style alongside occasional gang vocals and thrash riffs teetering into crossover a great deal of the time. Intermittently, Caton does delve into his more metal vocals along the lines of a lower-range Joey Belladonna, and it does work really well for him on this one. Check out Armageddon, among others, for some of that, because the vocals are absolutely one of the highlights of this record. Admittedly, much of the album is fairly basic, but also relentless and speedy, tying this more to simplistic punk thrash offerings from bands such as later 80s DRI and maybe early Nuclear Assault. There's also a reworked version of Warlord's Command. It was originally found in their 1985 debut album Raging Violence. It's certainly heavier and better produced than the original, and still has much of the same spirit to it. Definitely dug it. Anyways, vinyl on this one is 1 LP orange. It is limited to 250 copies. I believe it also came in yellow, if I'm not mistaken. So get a gatefold, cool live shot of Caton and the boys. Got track listings and some credits there as well. We also have a printed inner sleeve, full lyrics, really cool artwork. I believe this was on the Faster Than Death single that came out months before the album. Nice to see it here again. And we also get a poster. Very nice, a section of the artwork on the cover. There you go. As for favorites, Drowned Bodies, great track, also Faster Than Death, and Revenant. You should check out all three of those. Also, a music video is available for Relentless, as well as a lyric video for Drill into the Brain. You can check out both at the Caton Hirax YouTube channel. That's Katon Hirax. So some folks might be a little disappointed with how short this album is, and given that there is a reworked older song on here, it does beg the question of whether there was some difficulty in coming up with tracks for this. It seems so, but given what we do get, this is a respectable collection of songs, though, like some, I would have preferred more. And although there isn't anything necessarily innovative here, it's still a fun and thrashy little record. If you're wanting that, then you should definitely look into this one. Next is the second studio album from American heavy metal band Ironjaw. This is Cursed, released in 2025 by No Life Till Metal Records. So a series of power chords that are mixed with a live flourish quickly makes way for a solid driving riff and vocals that have a very strong Halford influence, mixed with some power metal sensibilities, but mostly a whole lot of Halford. Also some nice variety in that singing, from aggressive wails to punchy belts to siren cleans. Song structures are fairly simple and often anthemic, so nothing fancy here. Likewise with the drumming, which often sticks to heavy metal D beats and triplets. Though to be fair, there are some nice pattern switch-ups in the track Order of the Golden Dawn, which also has a nice creepiness to it that deviates from some of the otherwise predictable compositions on this record. The general riffing might also have a little bit of Judas Priest DNA in it at times, but again, often tapping into some US power metal. Solos vary a bit from bluesy to shreddy to all-out heavy. Album ends with the title track, which has a curious Slayer ring to its opening riff, but also a creepy pre-intro that could have easily fit on a King Diamond record. And also some ultra-high notes that practically skitter into World Dane territory. Overall, strong way to end the album. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP, Blood Red. The No Life Till Metal logo there. Also, insert with full lyrics, some pictures of the band, group shot, and some credits on the reverse. Favorite tracks here, definitely Sands of Time, as well as Cursed, and Order of the Golden Dawn, the last of which is likely the strongest track on the record. I'd recommend you check that one out first. Also, a total of 6 music videos are available for the tracks Tonight We Raid, Pyromancer, Sands of Time, The Wolf King, Order of the Golden Dawn, and Cursed. You can watch all of those at the Iron Jaw YouTube channel. So, a fairly standard heavy metal album with strong ties to, again, Judas Priest. I feel the second side of the record is stronger than the first, and there are some killer non-Judas Priest ideas here, notably in the final 2 songs, which I'd like to see this band explore further. It's a good record overall, but nothing groundbreaking. Still, give it a shot if interested. Next up is the 6th studio album from Canadian thrash metal band Sacrifice. This is Volume 6, released in 2025 by Cursed Blessings Records. So some slow, ominous guitar notes are suddenly interrupted by a pure thrash onslaught in the form of opening track Comatose, which is straight out of the classic Sacrifice playbook with speed riffing, furious drumming, and the screeching anger that is the voice of Rob Urbanati. Always loved Rob's unique vocal approach to thrash, and it fits so well with this band's style and overall sound, a voice that has not been diminished with time. At all. Anyways, really love the machine gun riffing and Antidote of Poison, which was the first single from the album, and it really has this crawling menace to it, interspersed with an almost martial feel in those machine gun moments. Also, the manic solos, both in this track and others, really keep the aggressive energy going, much of the same way Gary Holt's playing in early Exodus did. Some really cool drum and bass work open the track Underneath Millennia, riding alongside some prog-like chord riffing, not too dissimilar from Voivod. And this is probably the point in the record where the band stretches out, at least a little bit from their established sound. I say a little bit because this is still very much a Sacrifice album, through and through. So they're not exactly turning into Blood Incantation all of a sudden. But speaking of stretching out, we'll get some of that in the 2 instrumentals found on the B-side, such as being Lunar Eclipse, as well as the 6.5-minute Black Hashish. The first has a bit of a slow groove to it, with wailing guitars quickly picking up the pace, but remaining in the groove. Then more of a mid-paced thrashy crunch. The second instrumental starts with an almost Middle Eastern melody, dropping into some slow, note-bending riffs and wailing solos over top. Then it moves between tempos and moods of various forms. I'm faintly reminded of some of Metallica's older instrumentals in terms of varied structure, but with a strong Sacrifice flavor. Overall, it's fine, but it does run a little long. And given the album's 41-minute runtime, this might be here to pad out the second side. Still, not a deal breaker, and it does have some interesting melodic moments. Album ends with the very thrashy We Will Not Survive and the very punky ender Trapped in a World. Not sure how I feel about this final song, as it does have a bit of goofiness to it that almost sounds more like an MOD outtake track from the 1980s than anything else on this album. Just seems out of place. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1LP white. The track listing for both sides there, and the Cursed Blessings logo on the reverse. Also gatefold with pictures of the band and full lyrics. Also, we get an insert, requisite thrash metal band collage, gotta have it, classic. And we have a thank you list, maybe some credits as well there on the reverse. All right, we also have, I should not forget this, the label sent me this Sacrifice scarf. It's pretty amazing. You get the logo there, as well as same thing on the reverse, the other end of it, rather. Pretty amazing, right? It's a scarf. It is 2-sided, so the other side has Cursed Blessing Records. I'm sure my screen isn't wide enough for that, but there you go. Logo on either side. It's a pretty interesting thing to have. In fact, let's put it on. There we go. It's still kind of winter in Vermont, right? Sure. Where you are, maybe not so much. Anyways, yeah, so Cursed Blessing through a scarf, and I have no story about that whatsoever. Anyways, favorite tracks here, Antidote of Poison, Your Hunger for War, and Incoming Mass Extinction. Really love that final track. Maybe check it out first. Anyways, lyric videos are available for Antidote of Poison and Missile. You can find them both at the Sacrifice Official YouTube channel. So, barring a couple small missteps, this is a really solid thrash record from Sacrifice that hits far more often than it misses. There is plenty of material here that is worth getting excited about, and so I'm giving this a decent recommendation, especially for fans of this band's classic era. Also, this is the original lineup from the very first album, which is amazing, especially these times. I mean, how many bands can say that now? Anyways, yes, check this one out. So just like last month, there were a couple records that I wanted to get into this month's episode, but they're showing up 2 days from now. Such being the latest from Heathen and Benediction, and I just couldn't hold up this episode too long. I got other videos coming that really need to be specifically in those slots. Not going to get too into the scheduling end of things here, but I have to do it now versus later. There's the long explanation. Anyways, we'll definitely chat about those records in May because I am clearly at the mercy of the Postal Service. Anyways, let me know what you think of these albums, if you have other favorites from these bands, or even if you just want to chat about new stuff you're digging these days. Let me know all of that, as well as anything else that comes to mind in the comments below. Of course, if this is your first time to my channel, my name is Matt. This is the Accusation Network, where each and every week I do videos on metal vinyl collecting, but also classic and modern metal in general. If you like what you're seeing so far and you have yet to subscribe to my channel, it'd be really incredible if you did just that. Maybe also give this video a like and share out some of my other videos with some of your friends on social media. Why not? Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.